from New York every weekday at this time. In fact, if you're watching on the AFA channel right now, you're getting a live shot from New York Harbor looking at Lower Manhattan. That's the Freedom Tower in the sort of just off the middle of the screen there, as it is nearing final completion, but kind of a gray, hazy day in the New York area. And nonetheless, here we are, ready to go. We're glad to be with you. Kevin McCullough is my name. Thank you for joining us each weekday here on the American Family Radio Talk Network and AFA Today. The original broadcast of the, what was the original broadcast of the American Family Network 35 years ago, when the voice that you first hear in that open, Don Wildman, started this operation, and very, very honored to be the one at the microphone today, and very, very honored and humbled to have you with us per usual. Our phone number is 888-589-8840. Kevin McCullough saying, hey, if you hadn't planned on it, come back on Friday for us. Brent and I were just talking before we got on the air today. We got a little Christmas special for you on Friday. We're just gonna make your Christmas weekend that much better. So come on back Friday. You don't want to miss that little Christmas treat on Friday. Speaking of Christmas treats, you're hearing us talk about this. The Gospel for Asia Critter campaign, easy for me to say, is underway. And there's an interesting story about this on onenewsnow.com, but there's a whole lot of ways that you can help. So please go to afa.net and click the campaign button and buy a critter for a family. You're gonna bless someone this Christmas, and it's gonna make a huge difference in their life. You may think, what's a chicken or a goat or a water buffalo or some of the other options? What difference does that make? You'd be surprised. The micro enterprise potential for this in those people's lives, and it really does make a huge difference. So go over to afa.net. You're going to see the link for it. It's pretty simple, but click on it. And then go over and do something nice for some families that are in need this Christmas. You'll be hearing more about that as we get closer to the holiday as well. Anyway, thanks for being here. 888-589-8840. A couple of news stories, as we are always want to keep our eye on what's going on for you. Kevin McCullough is my name. The reporter over at Fox News, you may remember last spring I was telling you about this. There was a reporter at Fox News who evidently was such a danger to the administration, evidently such a horrible, horrific person, that they felt it was necessary to go to a court and to tell that court that he posed a threat to national security. And in the threat to the national security that he was posing, they were going to need to tap his phone lines and tap the phone lines of his mom and dad and his grandpa and his granny. He's going to tap all the phone lines because this one reporter at Fox News was so dangerous. Eric Holder told the court, "You got to tap his phone line. He's so dangerous. We got to know what he's up to." That reporter, by the name of James Rosen, who never had a criminal indictment brought against him, even though he had all these wild accusations told at the court, so they could get permission to tap his phone lines. I remember some of these things, and I'm embarrassed to say that our government did that, but they did, and they did it this year. And we found out about it only because somebody spoke up. But it's sad. Anyway, that reporter, James Rosen, has a piece out on foxnews.com today that's pretty important because in the piece, he actually discusses what Secretary of State John Kerry, formerly known as the failed presidential candidate John Kerry, formerly known as the long in the yarn-spinning senator from Massachusetts, John Kerry, that John Kerry, held a press conference recently talking about why it was so important that we let Iran have its $8 billion and not tell them that they had to stop enriching uranium. Now, I know this is going to seem kind of weird. Evidently, I don't do math the way liberals do. It's just a thing. I don't have that. I wasn't taught that way, like 2 + 2 = 2 in my book. But here's what happened. John Kerry, Secretary of State, when announcing the Iranian deal, which I'm still trying to figure out how we benefited from, we get to give them $8 billion, and in return, we promise not to check in to see if they're enriching centrifuges for nuclear materials. That's basically how the deal went down. We give them $8 billion, and we promise not to check in on them and not treat them unnicely. We promise to, send only rainbows, hugs, and kisses across the ocean, all in the really true hope and spirit of thinking that they're going to be impressed by this niceness and somehow on their own just jolly well stop enriching uranium for nuclear materials. When he was announcing what a great deal that was for us, he made an interesting statement. He said that the Bush administration was offered a deal whereby Iran had 164 enriched centrifuges, and that they didn't take that deal. This was, he said, in 2007. But he said that because the Bush administration didn't take that deal, now there are 19,000 enriched centrifuges that could be further enriched to create nuclear weapons. And he said that if only the administration previous to his, remember we're on what, year 6? If only the administration previous to his had been willing to take that deal, that perhaps they wouldn't have the 19,000 enriched centrifuges that they have now. Now, stay with me. We're doing liberal math today. So under Bush, they had 164 enriched, and Bush said, stop enriching. We're going to cut off all your finances. So what he did is he said, we won't give you $8 billion, and we will hold you accountable to not enriching centrifuges. To which the Iranian regime said, "Nyeh," and kept on enriching centrifuges, and we put the sanctions in place. We at least said, okay, you're not getting $8 billion, and we're not going to let other people give you resources like oil and other things that you need in the meantime. And so from there, from 2007 to the end of 2008, they may have enriched somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 centrifuges. That where they ended with at Bush's the end of Bush's presidency, because he slapped the sanctions on them, was up roughly maybe 3,000 centrifuges. Now, in the same press conference, Secretary of State Kerry said that they now had 19,000 centrifuges. So by my math, that's, and I know I'm a conservative, so I probably don't do math the same way they do. It's 16,000 centrifuges enriched since President Obama's been on the job, which is like more than 5 times the amount that they had at the end of President Bush's term. And Secretary Kerry said that what President Bush did didn't work, so now what we're doing works, so we should be further away from getting the centrifuges, right? The nuclear materials, building a nuclear bomb, right? That's what he's saying. Well, the last administration had this deal. They didn't take that deal. So, now we ride in on the white horse, and I may be doing this math all backwards. Help me if I am. I think that's something like 74% of all the centrifuges that they have been made while President Obama was golfing. If the math is right, 74, 80%, something like that, all happened while the current administration was doing what? Well, they were ignoring the people's protest against the corrupt vote of the last election. That's one thing that we did. We watched civilians get shot through the chest and bleed to death on international television in Iran. And, we gave them $8 billion and said that we won't check up on them anymore. For some reason, there's just something about this combination that doesn't seem to be working for me. Because it seems to me that at least if you say to them, you got to stop enriching those, and you take sanctions away, take the $8 billion, I think that they're going to create less centrifuges if they don't have $8 billion in their pockets to start with. Again, I'm just doing math the way I learned it, which could be completely wrong. I think if you don't give them $8 billion, that they don't have at least that $8 billion to enrich future centrifuges with, to make nuclear bombs. But Senator Kerry somehow is saying that because President Bush didn't take the deal to give them $8 billion and tell them they weren't going to check on them, because that's what he said. That's what he's implying. That's what President Bush should have done, according to Secretary Kerry. He should have said to Iran, okay, here's $8 billion, and we won't check on what you're doing either. Because that's what Obama now did, and he's claiming big victory and now stopping the nuclear program. Though we won't know if they stopped or not, because we're not going to be able to check on them. I don't know. Again, it's liberal math. I get it all mixed up. Maybe what's up is down, down is up, more is less, less is more. I don't know. But somehow Iran enriched about 80% of all of the centrifuges that they have to make nuclear weapons, somehow on Obama's watch, but somehow it is President Bush's fault. So I'm working that through, and when I figure out how they did all that, I'll let you know if that'll work for you, because I can't explain it at this time. 888-589-8840. In a series of interviews that Kerry gave before leaving Geneva after announcing the great deal that we got out of Iran, giving them $8 billion and letting them continue to make the centrifuges, Secretary of State Kerry expanded on the theme, telling ABC News that in 2003, Iran made an offer to President Bush, in fact, to do major things with respect to the program. But nobody took that deal. Nothing has happened. Therefore, here we are in 2013. They have 19,000 centrifuges, and they're closer to a weapon. You cannot sit there and pretend that you're just going to get the thing that you want while they continue to move towards the program they've been chasing. You can't always start where you want to wind up. Let me read that last part again. You cannot sit there and pretend that you're just going to get the thing you want while they continue to move towards the program they've been chasing. Are they more likely or less likely if we give them $8 billion to chase the program more? That's the part that I'm still hung up on. And I know it's probably some sort of weird programming in my own rational line of thought that is preventing me from seeing the greater liberal, expansive experience here. I'm trying to understand what he's telling me. That if you just sit back and let them do whatever they want, that they're going to make more centrifuges. But if you sit there and you give them $8 billion and let them do whatever they want and promise not to check up on them, doesn't that mean they're going to do more anyway? I don't know. I can't figure it out. I'm going to need your help today, friends. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. If you want to reach my 24-hour voicemail, that's 888-340-3373. My email address is kmcradio@gmail.com, and the website is afatoday.com, where I have this story posted. Maybe you could help me do the math when we come back on AFA Today on AFR Talk. I'm Kevin McCullough.